This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information and to find out how you can volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Harvester by Jean Stratton-Porter. Read by Cindy Steib. Chapter 9. The Harvester Goes Courting. "She is on Henry Jameson's farm, 4 miles west of Onabasha," said the Harvester as he opened his eyes next morning and laid a caressing hand on Belshazzar's head. "At 2 o'clock we are going to see her, and we are going to prolong the visit to the ultimate limit, so we should make things count here before we start." He worked in a manner that accomplished much. There seemed no end to his energy that morning. Despatching the usual routine, he gathered the herbs that were ready, spread them on the shelves of the dry house, found time to do several things in the cabin, and polish a piece of furniture before he ate his lunch and hitched Betsy to the wagon. He also had recovered his voice and talked almost incessantly as he worked. When it neared time to start, he dressed carefully. He stood before his bookcase and selected several pamphlets published by the Department of Agriculture. He went to his beds and gathered a large armload of plants. Then he was ready to make his first trip to see the Dream Girl, but it never occurred to him that he was going courting. He had decided fully that there would be no use to try to make love to a girl manifestly so ill and in trouble. The first thing, it appeared to him, was to dispel the depression, improve the health, and then do the love making. So, in the most businesslike manner possible, and without a shade of embarrassment, the Harvester took his herbs and books and started for the Jameson woods. At times as he drove along he espied something that he used, growing beside the road, and stopped to secure a specimen. He came down the river bank and reached the ginseng bed at 1:30. He was purposely early. He laid down his books and plants and rolled the log on which she sat the day before to a more shaded location, where a big tree would serve for a backrest. He pulled away brush and windfalls, heaped dry brown leaves, and tramped them down for her feet. Then he laid the books on the log, the armload of plants beside them, and went to the river to wash his soiled hands. Belshazzar's short bark told him the Girl was coming, and between the trees he saw the dog race to meet her, and she bent to stroke his head. She wore the same dress and appeared even paler and thinner. The Harvester hurried up the bank, wiping his hands on his handkerchief. "Glad to see you," he greeted her casually. "I fixed you a seat with a backrest to day. Don't be frightened at the stack of herbs. You needn't gather all of those. They are only suggestions. They are just common roadside plants that have some medicinal value and are worth collecting. Please try my davenport." "Thank you," she said, as she dropped on the log and leaned her head against the tree. It appeared as if her eyes closed a few seconds in spite of her, and while they were shut the Harvester looked steadily and intently on a face of exquisite beauty, but so marred by pallor and lines of care that search was required to recognize just how handsome she was, and if he had not seen her in perfection in the dream, the Harvester might have missed glorious possibilities. To bring back that vision would be a task worth while, was his thought. With the first faint quiver of an eyelash, the Harvester took a few steps and bent over a plant, and as he did so the Girl's eyes followed him. He appeared so tall and strong, so bronzed by summer sun and wind, his face so keen and intense, that swift fear caught her heart. Why was he here? Why should he take so much trouble for her? With difficulty she restrained herself from springing up and running away. Turning with the plant in his hand, the Harvester saw the panic in her eyes, and it troubled his heart. For an instant he was bewildered. Then he understood. "I don't want you to work when you are not able," he said in his most matter-of-fact voice. "But if you still think that you are, I'll be very glad. I need help just now, more than I can tell you, and there seem to be so few people who can be trusted. Gathering stuff for drugs is really very serious business. You see, I've a reputation to sustain with some of the biggest laboratories in the country, not to mention the fact that I sometimes try compounding a new remedy for some common complaint myself. I rather take pride in the fact that my stuff goes in so fresh and clean that I always get anywhere from 3 to 10 cents a pound above the listed prices for it. I want that money, but I want an unbroken record for doing a job right and being square and careful, much more." He thought the appearance of fright was fading and a tinge of interest taking its place. She was looking straight at him, and as he talked he could see her summoning her tired forces to understand and follow him, so he continued: "One would think that as medicines are required in cases of life and death, collectors would use extreme caution, but some of them are criminally careless. It's a common thing to gather almost any fern for male fern, to throw in anything that will increase weight, to wash imperfectly, and commit many other sins that lie with the collector. Beyond that, I don't like to think. I suppose there are men who deliberately adulterate pure stuff to make it go farther, but when it comes to drugs, I scarcely can speak of it calmly. I like to do a thing right. I raise most of my plants, bushes, and herbs. I gather exactly in season, wash carefully if water dare be used, clean them otherwise if not, and dry them by a hot air system in an evaporator I built purposely. Each package I put up is pure stuff, clean, properly dried, and fresh. If I caught any man in the act of adulterating any of it, I'm afraid he would get hurt badly, and usually I am a peaceable man. I am explaining this to show how very careful you must be to keep things separate and collect the right plants if you are going to sell stuff to me. I am extremely particular." The girl was leaning toward him, watching his face, and hers was slowly changing. She was deeply interested, much impressed, and more at ease. When the Harvester saw he had talked her into confidence, he crossed the leaves and sitting on the log beside her, picked up the books and opened one. "Oh, I will be careful," said the Girl. "If you will trust me to collect for you, I will undertake only what I am sure I know, and I'll do exactly as you tell me. There are a dozen things that bring a price ranging from 3 to 15 cents a pound that are in season just now. I suppose you would like to begin on some common, easy things that will bring the most money." Without a breath of hesitation she answered, "I will commence on whatever you are short of and need most to have." The heart of the Harvester gave a leap that almost choked him, for he was vividly conscious of a broken shoe she was hiding beneath her skirts. He wanted to say thank you, but he was afraid to, so he turned the leaves of the book. "I am working just now on mullein," he said. "Oh, I know mullein!" she cried, with almost a hint of animation in her voice. "The tall yellow flower stem rising from a circle of green felt leaves." "Good!" said the Harvester. "What a pretty way to describe it. Do you know any more plants?" "Only a few. I had a high school course in botany, but it was all about flower and leaf formation, nothing at all of what anything was good for. I also learned a few, drawing them for leather and embroidery designs." "Look here!" cried the Harvester. "I came with an armload of herbs and expected to tell you all about foxglove, mullein, yarrow, jimson, purple thornapple, blessed thistle, hemlock, horehound, lobelia, and everything in season now. But if you already have a profession, why do you attempt a new one? Why don't you go on drawing? I never saw anything so stupid as most of the designs from nature for book covers and decorations, leather work, and pottery. They are the same old subjects worked over and over. If you can draw enough to make original copies, I can furnish you with flowers, vines, birds, and insects, new, unused, and of exquisite beauty, for every month in the year. I've looked into the matter a little, because I am rather handy with a knife, and I carve candlesticks from suitable pieces of wood. I always have trouble getting my designs copied. Securing something new and unusual, never. If you can draw just well enough to reproduce what you see, gathering drugs is too slow and tiresome. What you want to do is to reproduce the subjects I will bring, and I'll buy what I want in my work, and sell the remainder at the arts and crafts stores for you. Or I can find out what they pay for such designs at potteries and ceramic factories. You have no time to spend on herbs when you are in the woods if you can draw." "I am surely in the woods," said the Girl, "and I know I can copy correctly. I often made designs for embroidery and leather for the shop mother and I worked for in Chicago.